Oh, hello folks, right, I want to get this video out by 8 o'clock, so please excuse any rough edges, but it's another one of those SHTF videos. The last one was extremely popular, so I've got a few more thoughts on the subject, so stick with it, and we'll crack on. Okay, thanks for sticking with it, guys. So yes, I actually changed my mind on something, or new ideas come into this this old head of mine. So yeah, I should go through that shortly. Anyway, so yeah, first of all, though, I'm still totally behind the really local FM stations on the FM broadcast band that I was into last time. Main reason for that is because everywhere you look, there's FM analog radios, analog tuners. For example, this old Baofeng UV3R Plus, I think it is. It's got an FM tuner in it. My old Samsung phone, it's got an FM tuner in it. You just plug the earpiece thingy in, and that acts as the antenna, and you've got an FM tuner. Same goes with my old tablet. Looking at some more modern stuff, this DAB radio, still got an analog tuner in it, and the other one down there I've got has as well. So that, and you can still buy non-digital, non-DAB radios down at Argos. Other stores are available. FM radios, FM, usually with medium wave, to be honest, down there. So you can still get it. You can still get it. Now, I'm totally behind that idea. Localized, distributed communications that can be implemented at a local level, as in a disaster, or the requirement for disaster or emergency communications might actually be at a local level. It might not be a national or international disaster. It might just be a localized one. So again, the FM is great for that. And if you want to get the ear, if you want to get the word out, if you want to reach out to the general public, it's got to be through this FM tuners. Okay, there's, I say, so many of them around. Otherwise, we are sort of talking amongst ourselves, so to speak. So that's my thinking on that. When I was talking about last time, localized comms hubs, I am talking comms in every form, everything you can think of and sensibly implement, because it could be that we've had some sort of jam-in type thing, or a CME, and it wipes out radio completely. You don't know. So when I'm saying comms hubs, something that could actually have a printer, a PC, and produce leaflets, and you're talking just a leaflet drop, or something with a loud hailer, a megaphone on the roof, or a vehicle with a megaphone, whatever, going around the streets like they used to back in the day. Even to the point where it's in a small village, it's going back to the town crier, even, to get that information out. It doesn't always have to be a technical radio implementation. And I mentioned Starlink last time. There's a good chance that a CME would knock out Starlink, but different types of disasters might not. So you might get a situation where one thing will work in a particular type of disaster and not something else, and vice versa. So I'm still totally in the thinking of FM broadcast band in order to get the ear of the public. What has entered into the mix, as far as I'm concerned, was something that a fellow called Sky mentioned, was Radio Caroline on the old medium wave. Apparently, I don't know, I think it's still going, is it not? I'm not too sure. But I remember, pretty sure I remember Radio Caroline. I certainly remember Radio Luxembourg. That was a long wave thing. But Radio Caroline was a ship-based pirate radio station. And I'm thinking, yes, offshore, medium wave, seaborne stations. We're an island nation at the end of the day. So to have a few ships around with FM transmitters, maybe medium wave transmitters, maybe some FM transmission as well, would provide some good infill, and perhaps with medium wave on a bigger sort of coverage, perhaps some more, less localized, more international, more national information and news. So certainly I'm thinking a sort of hybrid now of medium wave FM. So another chap did actually rightfully point out that there's areas that just don't seem to get any signal on anything. and I have experienced those areas. I did some car camping and walking in 2 remote hamlets over in the Brecon Beacons last year, and there was no mobile phone signal. There was no reception when I fired up my FM radio, nothing at all. And say the only thing I could really pick up was a bit of something on medium wave, but not a lot, to be honest. So there are areas that are pretty well cut off. And when I actually implemented my off-grid messaging that I was testing, I put a base station on my vehicle at the campsite. I went up the mountains and I sent messages back to that base vehicle. I'm probably the first person that's ever implemented messaging, text messaging, to those hamlets. So it shows that you can sort of get up a mountain and infill and all the rest of it. But it does show there's areas that are very much devoid of signal. So yeah, he did point out that, and I absolutely agree, I lament the demise of long wave. That long wave is actually a fantastic thing to cover big distances and get down into valleys and into the depths of buildings. Now, in this building, we have been phased out what's known as tele-switches, which are electric meters that switch over between tariffs on and off peak and economy 7 via a radio signal that comes through on long wave. Now, electricity companies are saying you've got to go over to smart meter, blah, 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 because this signal is getting switched off. And a lot of these meters are down in the basement. They don't pick up I think it's 2G it runs off of. They don't pick up that signal. So I believe they're having to install a smart meter, but make it unsmart because you can't get a signal. And they actually manually program in the off and on peak times. So something of a retrograde step, but that it's all getting switched off. I don't think Radio 4's got long to go. I haven't listened to long wave in a very long time. I still thought Atlantic 252 was still going until I looked it up. So it shows even me as something of a radio enthusiast, not an avid radio enthusiast, but something of a radio. I've not listened to long wave. Apparently the figures for how many people listen to it are minute. So I don't think, as sad as it is, I don't think it's savable as far as keeping it going. Apparently the infrastructure is really old and all the rest of it. But it is true what the chap said. With just 3 transmitters, you can cover the whole of the UK, and it will find its way into those remote spots. On the downside to that is the content that centralisation can put out is far less local than a very hyper local FM station can. And in addition, just if 3 transmitters get taken out for whatever reason, then it's gone, isn't it? Attack, whatever description, just those 3 big transmitters, gone. Okay, and I think it's at it anyway, sad as it is. But I certainly think there's some hope in medium wave. So there we are. Anyway, I got some notes. Hopefully I can read my own writing. Let's see what else I've been saying. So yeah, I'm still totally sold on FM, but introducing some offshore AM. Perhaps AM on an island, medium wave transmitter would cover the whole island, say. So yeah, I certainly think that is something that would be an advantage. Right, let's have a look what else have I got on here. Going back to FM, I was looking on the internet. Now, back in about 2007, they were already talking about the FM broadcast band being vacated and moving over to DAB and online. And there was talk at that time about turning the FM broadcast band into a community band, where it sort of spawned my ideas, really. And they did issue some licenses, and this is Ofcom, and there was an RFC request for comments document went out asking people's views. Government being government, everything takes a hell of a long time. I think they've kicked the can down the road at the moment, that there's still going to be FM broadcast until at least 2030. But so they have issued some of these community licenses, and indeed, I don't think there's anything around here anymore, but certainly back at where the family place used to be, there was 2 community stations that we could hear, they were coming out over the FM broadcast band and also streaming over the internet. So it's not beyond the realms of hope that we can think that the government can issue licenses and perhaps turn the FM broadcast band into a much more community-based thing, because that's what they were thinking anyway. And again, going back to long wave, I say it before, I was on about how much power it would take to our high-powered, massive transmission towers. With my idea with the FM stuff, we're talking very small wattage transmitters, and indeed, something like a regular sort of half decent power bank with perhaps solar going into it, and you can charge them up off of a vehicle. A 5 watt, 10 watt, 15 watt, 20 watt station would last a long time just on that. You don't need backup generators and all this type of stuff. That would last a long time, especially if you go down the route of intermittent timed transmissions of information, much the same as the Coast Guard do now. They have a maritime safety information broadcast every 3 hours. So it could be that type of thing, every 3 hours or 1 hour, whatever. And that would save battery power because you're not transmitting constantly. Okay, so it could go down that route. And yeah, it would last a long time with renewables helping to power it. Or like I said, you can literally charge those things up. Your vehicle, a vehicle can be your emergency generator. So that's my thinking on the old FM stuff. Now, I think I left it last time in the state where I'm thinking, who's going to run it? Okay. I'm thinking MOD. Okay. I think the MOD should run it. Should be a department of the MOD if there's not one already. That pretty much sit at the top tier of this. Now, I don't think anything's actually going to happen until something happens. We need, hopefully won't have such a thing as happened in Spain with the power outage, something like that, to really set a fire under the government's backside and get them to roll something out. It usually takes that sort of thing for it to happen. But in the meantime, I think it's just ad hoc. People like me, people like the amateur radio people, HF operators, VHF operators, voluntary groups, Facebook groups. I think it's going to have to be pretty much ad hoc. But I think if we do get something serious kick off, like a major outage of the mobile phone networks or something like that, then I think that will actually focus the mind and we will see some action, hopefully, from government level. But I think MOD at the top, because obviously they've got Army, Navy, Air Force, Army, second to none in field communications, getting stuff going on mountain tops and all the rest of it. Navy, offshore stations. Air Force, obviously air support for the other two services, plus they perhaps do leaflet drops of drones and things like that, that type of thing. So that'll be the top tier. Underneath that, you're talking BBC, local government, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got sort of specialist voluntary groups that can feed into that. You're talking RayNet, you're talking amateur radio people, ARCs, things like that. And then you've got people like 4x4 Response, who are the people that sort of link up 4x4 owners with people needing transport in a blizzard, that type of thing. And then you've got the unlicensed people like me that would be still very effective in getting out and doing some work. And then, of course, you've got the people that would actually offer their sort of services, hopefully, physically, for moving stuff around, logistics and things like that. So I think that would have to be the way. The MOD have got a lot of primary use on many frequencies anyway. So, yeah, that's the way I think it could work. Somebody like the MOD, you need someone like that, really, a military type thing, to be able to sort of ride roughshod over the other ones as well, because there's bound to be some rivalry, bickering, dynamics going on, licensed radio, unlicensed radio, this department, that department. and you just need an overriding thing to say, just behave and let's get on with it type of thing. Now, some people would say just give it to a technical organization. But I say this thing is not just about radio. Excuse me. But the problem with giving it to people that are very technical is they do find it sometimes difficult to interact with the non-technical. Now, I'll draw a comparison with IT, okay? I used to work in amongst IT. And what used to happen on a big project, you'd have the really technical people, okay, who are virtually thinking that in their heads, like matrix type ones and zeros. Very clever people, but quite often they're not very good at explaining what they've done and what they're planning to do to the end user or the business. Okay, so what you would have in between the two is a project manager or project managers or whatever structure there is available, and their job in life, their attribute would be that they are technical enough to understand what the really technical people are trying to do and what they're doing, and have a nose for bullshit. That's very important. And also, they are verbose enough to translate that into something very understandable to end users and the business. So that's how it works. Okay, so I wouldn't give everything over to somebody either totally devoid of any sort of technical expertise, or conversely, not over to somebody who's overtly technical. Okay, you need that sort of thing in the middle, and that thing in the middle is like almost like the person that would be the presenter. You need someone, because you can get people that are really clever and whatever, but they don't come over very well as a presenter. You would need someone with a voice. It's very difficult to be a presenter, to be honest. There's lots of people say, oh, what easy job it must be. Try it, okay? Just try sitting in front of, just like I do, in front of a camera. And I'm not particularly good at it, but at least I can do it. Some people just can't do that. And to be able to go on the emergency station and sound serious enough not to cause panic, but to be sort of soft enough to sort of get the information out and have the sort of voice that people would listen to, okay? So that's my thinking on who would run it and whatever. Now, someone mentioned Raynet. I looked into Raynet. I knew about Raynet anyway. I think it was formed in 1953 in response to some flooding. Fantastic. I would say, if anybody's watching from Raynet, sort your website out a bit. It looks like it was made in probably 1995, and there's a lot of broken links on it. I did try and look up the local Raynet group, broken link. I can't find anything that they're on social media wise that's active. I think I looked up Essex. Essex seems quite active with Raynet. They do seem to be doing more in the way of business digital radio now, I think, when they do I think they do a lot of sort of marathons and fun runs and things like that these days. Certainly there's a place for them in it, but perhaps it's time to have a bit of a tidy up, bit of a push. It does seem to me, as a layman looking in, please correct me if I'm wrong with the organisation, but to someone looking in from the outside, it does seem a little bit fragmented, and their sort of front of house presentation at the moment, certainly with their website, is not great, guys. Okay, so there we are. But certainly I see all these people having an input into this scene. As I say though, until something really kicks off, I don't think any this sort of stuff I'm talking about is going to happen. Anyway, so if anything else comes up on this subject, I will do more videos on it. But I am hoping soon. I am sporting an injury at the moment. Have a look on my other channel if you want to know how I got it. But once that's recovered enough, I am hoping to grab some very basic kit, FM CB radio, PMR 446 radio, my little transistor radio, and an off-grid messaging device of some description. I'm hoping to head up into the wilderness ad hoc. I'm not going to publicize it because that would be cheating, and see what I can do with that. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. It's going to be in June, hopefully. if I can get over this injury, and we'll see if I can do some sort of practical demonstration on what can be done with really basic kit. Okay, so there we go. Anyway, I won't detain you any longer. I will wish you all the best, and thank you very much for all the extra subscribers that came in off the back of the last video. Thank you very much to my existing subscribers and viewers, and thank you very much for the comments on the last video. And yeah, let's hope it's of some use and food for thought. Anyway, as I say, I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, everyone.